Hey, it's Alicia from mobilitymastery.com, and today's video could be one of the most important you watch if you want to take radical ownership of your body and your healing processes. Because if you can come to understand what I'm about to teach you, I believe you can heal just about anything. What I'm about to teach you is kind of a law or rule that I have used to heal from trauma, to heal my body and my knee pain, to heal some money mindset issues that I've had in my relationships, so many things, because I think this common thread runs through everything. So I want to talk to you today about nature's checks and balances. Now, I'm probably going to have to define what I even mean by nature and then what I mean by checks and balances for this to really sink in and make sense to you. And this will perhaps challenge you if you live in a different paradigm than me. So I want to just state that right off the bat and take ownership of the paradigm that I'm living in and where this is coming from. So the paradigm that I am choosing to live in for my body, my life, my core values is that we live in a very physical world with physical laws. I also believe that we live in a spiritual world that permeates everything here that is physical. I'm not a materialist. I don't try to reduce the body to its parts. I look at the spiritual running through everything. So if that's not part of your paradigm, this may not make sense to you at all, and that's okay. I want to talk to those of you that do believe that there is something spiritual running through all of life, and that this is really what I mean when I say nature. So when I say nature, what I actually am referring to is everything on this planet, really, everything, every living thing, including you and I. So my body, I believe, is a reflection of nature herself in her totality. I believe your body is also a reflection of nature. I believe that each of us exists kind of in a self-contained organism right here of body and being. But I also believe that kind of self-contained organism is a reflection of the world and is connected to the greater world and the greater nature. We're built by nature. We've evolved from and with the natural world, and I don't believe we can separate ourselves from it and expect to be healthy. Now, I also believe that running through all of nature is something vastly more intelligent than human beings, vastly more diverse and intricate and mysterious and beautiful and awe-inspiring than we can see with our eyes and maybe sense with our senses, obvious senses anyway. I think that there are truths to be learned out there in the world and also in here, in our inner world. So that is the paradigm with which I'm wanting to talk to you today about nature's checks and balances as it pertains to your life, you and your body and your life. So I'm going to give some kind of more metaphysical, more metaphorical examples here, but then I'm going to give you some tangible examples of what I mean when I say that it could be due to these, maybe you're bumping up against one of nature's checks and balances when you're trying to get out of pain, and it's why you're spinning your wheels and staying stuck instead of healing and finding freedom. So I really believe that nature's checks and balances determine our ability to get out of pain, to create vitality, to experience abundance. And when I say that, I don't mean get rich, but an abundance of vital energy, an abundance of sensory experience and knowledge and consciousness and all the things, right, that make life meaningful. That's what I'm referring to when I say abundance. But I would actually extrapolate that to money as well. But maybe that's a video for another time. It determines our ability to expand our consciousness. And I truly believe that there are natural or spiritual laws in place to ensure that those who aren't ready or aren't responsible enough to acquire spiritual knowledge will not be allowed to obtain that knowledge. Because I do think that with spiritual knowledge comes a great responsibility to use it wisely. And so I think there's some amazing intelligence in nature's checks and balances that doesn't really even allow us to get there. We might think we've obtained it, but maybe we're actually, living in a delusion of some kind of obtainment of that knowledge because we're not actually ready yet or worthy of real spiritual knowledge. So that's kind of a little tangent there to help you understand how I'm really looking at this when I say expand your consciousness. I believe it's due to nature's checks and balances that we can experience more freedom in kind of a non-linear way in body, soul, and spirit. When I say soul, I mean kind of our psyche and our personality and what is maybe subconscious until we raise it into consciousness. And then by our spirit, I kind of mean the more eternal, higher consciousness part of us. And I think that we experience increasing levels of freedom through a series over our lifetime, if we're seeking freedom, of expansions and contractions. And I don't believe they're very linear. I don't think, I think sometimes we might actually expand our consciousness and then out of necessity need to actually lose access to what we just learned with that expansion to kind of gestate and incorporate and really let it sink in a wise way into our being before we're allowed to actually remember maybe what we learned 6 months ago or a year ago. If you've ever had like an epiphany, you might understand what I'm talking about, where your mind just goes, and then you kind of, it seems to shrink somewhat, and you maybe even forget what you just learned like 3 days ago that you thought was so mind-blowing. But then maybe a month or two later or 6 months later, suddenly you're like, oh, I get it now. I get it. Now it's really like living in me in a really concrete way. And then finally, I believe that we all have access to greater biodiversity of thinking, feeling, and willing when we're in alignment with nature and nature's checks and balances. So when we're working within and conscious of nature's checks and balances, and we actually hold ourselves accountable to whatever those checks and balances ask us to look at and experience in order to actually grow and make ourselves worthy of expansion of consciousness, then we get greater biodiversity of thinking, feeling, and willing. What do I mean by that? I want to just really quick state that these are terms I've taken from somebody that is a spiritual mentor of mine, Rudolf Steiner. Maybe you're familiar with him. I'd love to know in the comments if you are. But he was a philosopher and just an amazing human being, thinker. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, he was the creator of Waldorf schools and biodynamic gardening, among many other things. But I love to read Steiner's stuff, and he always talks about thinking, feeling, and willing. Here, how I'm kind of using that is I believe that our ability to think in freedom or think objectively without our thinking being actually kind of programmed into us through automated behaviors and automated reactivities and all the things that kind of keep us actually enslaved in our thinking instead of free in our thinking, are processes of the body largely, but also due to the body being a reflection of us and a reflection of the world. And so we actually have to work at freeing our thinking. So this is something I have talked about on the channel before, but the more objective we can get in our thinking and less reactive to things like pain, the more freedom we're going to have, because we can actually get curious about what's happening, what we're feeling, instead of getting reactive to it and wanting to say, ooh, I'm having a feeling I don't like right now. I want it gone. I want it, get away from me. I don't like this, right? But if we're actually, that's reactive, and that's you being programmed by biology, by your maybe childhood and genetics and all kinds of other things, to react and think that way and behave that way or will things that way, versus freeing yourself from those automatic behaviors of thinking and feeling and action. So I think that the more we're able to work with nature's checks and balances through what our body is trying to teach us, primarily through pain, the greater our experience is going to be as a human being. We're going to have access to more sensory capacity, more incoming information. I've had experiences of feeling really psychic in moments, and I think actually we have access to greater consciousness experiences, and experiences, but not just of consciousness, which I know can get a little convoluted or really out there. And I'm actually much more interested in very tangible, concrete concepts of consciousness. But one of them for me would be having a really biodiverse experience of sensation in your body, a sensory experience as a human being, and then being able to observe those sensory experiences in order to gain knowledge from them, not self-knowledge as well as knowledge about the world. So hopefully that gives you a little context here, and I am going to focus on the pain part to help you understand, but I wanted to really put this in here to challenge you a little bit to think beyond getting out of pain. So nature's checks and balances, I believe, are here to actually hold us accountable to creating more freedom, and creating a different way of thinking and feeling and being in the world. And as I think you know, unless you're brand new here, and if you are, welcome, but this is something I say over and over and over on this channel. I'm a pain advocate. I think that pain is here to teach us something. I think it's the only way we actually grow. We probably wouldn't raise our hand and say, yes, I would love to do really hard things and challenge myself in order to have more freedom, unless we actually had pain kind of pushing us towards what we might have to say yes to and sign up for in order to have more freedom. For example, pain is actually what put me on the path of everything I'm here doing at Mobility Mastery, and I never knew that it would actually lead here to this moment where I'm talking about expanding consciousness and biodiversity of thinking, feeling, and willing, and all these kind of crazy sounding spiritual things. Back, when I was 22, I had knee pain that was just really bad. I hated it and I wanted it gone. But I went on a journey of looking at that pain, and over many, many years, realized that my resistance to it and my selfish desire to want it gone actually kept me stuck in it. It shrunk my world and actually kept me enslaved to patterns of reactivity, behavior, fear, stuff like that. So number one, I would challenge you to adopt a different belief than just wanting to get out of pain. If you're willing to actually learn something from your body and your body's natural wisdom, so the wisdom of nature that lives in your body that you have access to, you're going to learn something profound that could change your life forever and allow you to actually cultivate capacities as a human being that grow you and expand you and grant you more human experience than you had before you were even in pain. So what the heck do I mean? Well, nature's checks and balances. I mean, we have gravity is part of that, right? We have, something as simple as, in order to contract your hamstring, your quad has to stretch. These are examples of nature's checks and balances at a really physical, simplistic level, right? But they're part of it. For example, I'm trying out some Luna sandals lately, and I want to do a video actually on them, but they are kind of a barefoot technology for shoes or feet. They're sandals that people hike in and run in. And I've been challenging myself to go 6, 7, up to 9 miles, I think I did one day, and in them, and my feet are incurring sensory experience that's less than pleasant. But one thing that's just super simple, right, is I'm wearing these sandals. There's a little buckle thing for the straps that was rubbing against my foot, and I got a blister. Well, I can be really annoyed and pissed off about the blister, or I could just look at it and go, oh, well, I mean, duh. If my foot is falling onto that little buckle in such a way that it's rubbing, like that's nature's checks and balances in action right there, I'm going to get a blister. So I'm just bringing that up right now to give you an idea that nature's checks and balances exist in very, very, very simplistic mechanical ways, as well as, I believe, really big kind of spiritual laws that are less tangible than the examples I just gave you. But now let's talk about pain. One of the reasons I see a lot of my clients struggling to, say, get out of pain, or a lot of my students, I should say, online too, is primarily online where I see this struggle, because in person I'm better at working with clients to kind of move through the experience I'm about to describe to more freedom, but it's harder to do on your own when you're not really sure what's going on. I talk a lot about the nervous system being a gatekeeper to fascia release and being able to create change in your body. So your nervous system is kind of the primary mechanism by which you are granted freedom or denied freedom. Now, why would your body actually deny you freedom if you're in pain? You know, you might think that your body wants you to be free. And I would say that yes, it does. And it's not just going to hand it to you. So here's the thing. We have to actually earn freedom. We have to earn higher levels of consciousness. We have to actually make ourselves worthy of that greater biodiversity of, say, sensory perception and higher levels of thinking, because with those comes a lot of responsibility. Something that I've heard kind of a friend, colleague, I don't know if she's a colleague exactly of mine, but somebody that I know that likes to write about philosophical and spiritual topics, brought up something by this author, Rudolf Steiner, that I mentioned earlier, which is that if you know how to heal the body, you actually know how to cause illness. So this is kind of like a spiritual law that if you are granted access to that knowledge, it's a responsibility. Like there's actually some responsibility that comes with it, because if you know how to heal yourself, you can actually injure yourself or other people. So why would your body hold you back from getting out of pain at the nervous system level? If you haven't healed trauma, let's say, or your body is carrying certain patterns of behavior that you haven't made conscious and then consciously worked to change, it could deny you physical freedom in terms of being able to release your fascia, because if you release your fascia, you become a more free being. You're going to increase your water content. You're going to increase the electrical charge capacity for your cells, which could, actually create more freedom in thinking, like I was just talking about. And so you can't really have that if you're still stuck in the past. So your body's actually saying, hey, you need to actually go back and take care of this other thing first. Before you can move forward. So this is something that I see quite a bit. So if you have been trying to, say, get out of pain with fascia release, and you're getting really sore afterwards, or your pain just keeps coming back and keeps coming back, or you're not getting any results at all, and your experience of trying to release fascia maybe involves a lot of resistance, hating how it feels, because it can be really intense, kind of resisting how it feels, maybe even resenting how it feels a little bit, like you're angry at your body, that it hurts so much to do fascia release. These would all be signs to me that there's something else that needs to get looked at first. And to kind of circle back around to greater biodiversity of feeling, thinking and feeling, we can feel a lot of sensation that might be labeled painful to one person, that with an expansion of consciousness and an ability to perceive sensory experience differently might not be perceived as painful. So you kind of have to pass through that experience and be willing to feel it in order for your body to grant you an expansion of being able to feel other things, or more biodiversity of sensory experience. But your body's really just trying to hold you accountable to healing in a successive manner that is in accordance with nature's laws or checks and balances. So that's the primary thing that I wanted to talk to you about today, related to getting out of pain and why you might be getting stuck due to kind of bumping up against some of nature's checks and balances. But there's one other thing that I want to mention here. And before I do, I want to just kind of wrap up what I just said with the just kind of acknowledging that those things are the things I just talked about with your nervous system and your body kind of holding you accountable to heal in kind of a successive, natural manner, is really a reflection of what I was talking about with your body being a self-contained organism. So your body is a reflection of you, your thoughts, your emotions, your patterns of behavior, your past, and whether or not you've moved it out of your body, your unhealed traumas, all of that. Your body is going to reflect that to you. But the other thing that I want to point out here too is that your body is also a reflection of the world. And I think that when we talk about nature's checks and balances and your human potential, your potential being dependent on being in alignment with nature, is that we are also a reflection of the world. So our bodies are a reflection of our greater environment and a reflection of the whole planet as an organism. So as above, so below. We're a microcosm of the macrocosm, if you want to think about it that way. But quite simply, we can't kill the planet through deforestation, mass extinctions, poisoning things with 85,000 new man-made lab-created chemicals in the last 100 or so years, spraying glyphosate on everything, killing the soil, poisoning ourselves, poisoning the air, poisoning the water, right? We can't do that to this planet and expect health for ourselves. So those actions are also getting reflected to us by our body. So it's possible that you're not actually able to get out of pain or experience a physical abundance or create vitality. I'm going to stick with maybe those three for now, due to the message not being delivered through your body to your consciousness, that there's something in your environment that's off. So this is something that I've personally talked about on this channel in relation to me getting sick in 2017, 2018, and finding out through a lot of diligent research that it was likely related to fracking, natural gas fracking, and being poisoned by the air that I was breathing because I was living in very close proximity to a bunch of fracking wells, which were potentially exploding the earth and then putting mercury into the air, in addition to VOCs and other things. I don't have any proof per se, but this is the origin point for me of really having this concept land for me fully, that our bodies are a reflection of the world, and we are being held accountable, each in our own way, so me in my way and you in your way, to these checks and balances that nature is holding us accountable to. We can't poison the planet and expect health for ourselves. So one example, as far as like pain goes, and maybe even fascia release, would be if you're getting on a foam roller or any fascia release tool and you're experiencing just a lot of tenderness in your fascia, which is making it difficult for you to do fascia release because it's so painful, that's a sign of systemic toxicity. So that's actually your body alerting you to probably environmental toxicity of some kind, either in your air, your water, your food, right? Your household or the greater environment outside your home. But something is coming in and poisoning you. So I really believe that this is nature's way of asking us to become wiser, asking us to actually learn from our mistakes. It's not, I don't personally believe it's nature being either good or bad. It's not rewarding us or punishing us. It just is. Like nature's laws and checks and balances just are. They just are. When we create health out there in the world and we honor the planet and we have reverence for nature, we're granted more health. When we don't, we have less health. And that just is the way it is. I don't actually see it as kind of punishment or reward. I'm not really trying to put human emotion on it. I actually think it's a beautiful design of nature. I actually think it's an amazingly beautiful design in nature because, you know, if nature allowed us to actually kill this whole planet without killing ourselves, we would kill all of biodiversity on Earth without any chance of it recovering. I kind of believe that that's possible because we're just a myopic species that's doing a lot of destructive things, right? There are also really beautiful aspects to what human beings are. And again, our potential really depends on being in alignment with nature. So if, for example, we're willing to align ourselves with nature and actually be reverent in front of nature and in awe of nature's wisdom, then we will be granted more freedom, less pain, less illness, more vitality, more freedom in our thinking, more expansion of consciousness. All these things are available to us, but we have to get in alignment with nature to get free. So I hope this is making sense to you. I would really love for you to hear, I would really love to hear your thoughts if you want to share below this video. And I'm here to answer your questions as this topic pertains to getting out of pain, if you have any questions about that. But my recommendation really would just be to approach your body as a teacher and to have reverence for your body knowing more than you and having a lot to teach you, because your body contains the infinite wisdom of nature, and it's there for you to learn from right now. So if you approach your body with a lot of reverence and humility and willingness to learn, I believe you could actually learn the secrets of the universe, the secrets of nature herself, of consciousness, of so many things, just by turning to your body in this way. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, maybe give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're new, and I'll see you next time.